Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of Black?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself. Ooh.
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Hello, Brother Benjamin.
Hello, Jake Ventura, pet detective.
I'm going to run out.
You are.
If I have to Google movies with names in the title one more time, I'm going to go insane. There's a bunch, though. There's a bunch. I've still probably got about at least 2 more months.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch.
Yeah.
So welcome to Ben and Jake Write a Movie, episode 38. On Thursday, November 17th.
It is
2 p.m.
It's our last show before Thanksgiving.
It is our last show before Thanksgiving, yeah.
I know it's next Thursday. We've got a week till Thanksgiving, but we're both doing our own things for a week, aren't we? You're going away, I'm going away. We're doing things.
Yeah.
To see you in person next week, so that's going to be nice.
I know, that is going to be nice.
Yes.
That is going to be nice. And actually, I guess we'll probably only have 10 more shows after this for the year.
Better get this script written by then, otherwise we're going to be done. 10 hours. 10 hours.
No. We'll see. We're supposed to have a guest today. His name is Matthew Sand. He's a wonderful writer, friend, and our mentor, actually.
Yes, and to be clear by that,
yeah.
So when you join the WGA, which is the Writers Guild of America, which is our union, they partner you up with a seasoned writer who has been through the rigors of screenwriting hell that Hollywood is, and help you understand, how to navigate certain things, just to kind of be a resource for you. And we met with Matthew. So we joined the union in 2014. We made our first sale. And Matthew was very kind, took us and a group of, other mentees out for dinner at Musso and Frank's, which I'll always remember. Yeah. And we've just really made sure that we stayed in touch with him. And we kept, I think, with one of the only few that actually have with him from that group. And he has and continues to be just a great resource in how to navigate certain things, be that talking about management or jobs at studios or just life being a screenwriter. So anyway, we've been very lucky. He wrote Deepwater Horizon.
He did, as along with many others. Ninja Assassin, if you're a fan.
Ninja Assassin,
back in the day. But many projects. He's been a working screenwriter for a very long time.
Yes.
And we are just really excited to have him here to talk about his process. Since you all get to watch ours. So without further ado, let's introduce Matthew Sand.
There he is.
Hey kids, how goes it?
Hey, Matthew.
Good, thank you. Sorry about the delay.
That's all right.
There were some technical issues.
We vamped.
It's
all good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now.
Yeah. Good to see you. So
well, glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
So we may not have told you a ton about our podcast here that we're doing, Ben and Jake Write a Movie, where basically we are literally writing a movie from scratch, live, every day. We started with no idea, and we're now in the outlining of Act 2 stage. We've come quite a long way in this process. But we decided to kind of shake it up because it was like, people are going to get so bored of just watching us do this. We got to put some fun in this. And so we're having amazing guests like you to talk about your process, because the whole idea is to kind of let people in on our process, but everybody has their own. So that's the cool thing.
I think what's been interesting, we've interviewed 2 other writers thus far, and both times it's been different. I think it's really interesting for us as well to be like, oh, okay, that's the way you do it. So Matthew, how do you
write a movie now? We'll make it easier for you. All right,
mentally, I would say.
First, start at the very beginning.
Well,
how do you
actually had a lot of with other writers about this over the years. The care and feeding of ideas is
Yeah.
fascinating to me. And we do come at it from very different places. Some people I know write from anger. This is I had a buddy of mine, a very successful buddy of mine, say every page I write is a fuck you to my dad. He's a runner living in a giant house.
Yeah.
I've had other people say they write best stoned at 4 a.m. because that's the time they feel most confident, most alone in what they're doing. I will also say that I have been writing professionally for can I say fuck on this?
You can, yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it is live, so don't go any further than that.
Yeah, it's all right. Do whatever you want.
I came this cocksucker of an idea.
Not a show for
I've been
kids.
doing this professionally for 18 years. I have written, God, I figured it out at one point. I'm 50-something screenplays, 40-something screenplays, and another half dozen teleplays for money. And each one's different. Like, each one is radically different one from the other. There are lessons I have learned that make it a little bit easier on myself, and that I do think make it a bit easier on other people. But each one is different. I will also give one big, giant, whopping caveat, which I always give when I'm giving a lecture to beginning writers, which is just because it works for me, not only does it not mean it will work for you, but it means it probably won't work for you.
Right.
The process is so idiosyncratic. You got to find the thing that works for you. Find it and then double the fuck down on it.
Yeah.
So, care and feeding of ideas. It depends what I'm starting with. If I'm starting with an original idea, which I find by far the most difficult emotionally, that's one thing. It's something else if I'm being given a script to rewrite it.
Yeah.
Or a book saying adapt this, or a video game, or whatever this IP it is. Sometimes a director has a notion. I'm partnered up with a director named Sam Hargrave, and Sam told me almost a year ago. He said, "I want to do a oneer with." Should I define oneer? Do we know what?
Define oneer.
A oneer is a single camera shot tracking with the lead character. So it happens. It's supposed to look like it happens in one take.
Birdman's an example of that, right?
Yeah, Birdman, 1917 is one giant oneer. It's a flex for the director, but it also creates a feeling of immediacy and propulsive movement that's hard to replicate. And Sam's really good at them. But he said, "I want to do a oneer with Tom Holland. The whole movie a oneer with Tom Holland." I was like, "That's amazing. It's almost an idea. Like, not quite, but it's almost an idea." And I spent 6 months and I couldn't break it. I couldn't. It didn't work. And then I was hiking a mountain one day, as is my wont. And halfway up, I was like, "Oh my God, I fucking know this movie." Like, I know. I knew all 3 act breaks. I knew how it started. I knew how it ended. I just had it. And it ended up being the single best original idea I've had in the last 5 years, probably. And you see, you don't know. You just noodle at things, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes it does. But with regards to the care and feeding of ideas, one thing I have definitely learned is don't be mean to them. Those ideas are fragile little butterflies when you have them.
Yeah.
If you pin them to the wall, they're just going to die.
How do you decide which one you want to move forward? Like, obviously, if it's a job, that's different. If people are presenting you scripts, that's different. But let's say you decide you want to write a spec and you've got a lot of ideas that are floating around in your mind. Do you have a way in which you pick which one? Is there a strategy? Do you think about the business? Do you think about the market? Or do you just go with what you're most passionate about?
Well, first of all, let me dig in a little bit on the difference between having an idea to break an existing property that I'm being given, whereas breaking something independent. If I'm being given a property and being told, "Hey, whether it's a rewrite," I mean, I just came off of doing a week and a half on an existing movie that I fixed. I have to make it work, right? I have the idea. I have to make it work. Whereas if it's an idea that I've had, one of the 10,000 ideas I've had that day, some of which are, should I trim that toenail? I am inclined to make it not work. A lot of my brain is saying, yet another crummy idea. You should not trim the toenail. Move on. So the the process is really different. I'm much more encouraging of ideas that I have to make work because that's the job already. It comes with that built in. The easiest breaks I've had, I'm working on a big property for Legendary right now. And they told me, I really can't talk about it right now, but they gave me really 2 words and said, it's about this and it's a remake of that. And that was it. It was basically, it boiled down to 2 words. And 5 minutes later, I spun out 10 minutes of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. That never happens when it's my idea, ever.
Right.
Ever. I just knew at that moment, sitting down with Mary Parent, I had to make it work. I was with the head of the studio. You got one shot, kid.
Right.
Make it work. Whereas if it's my own idea, I am trying to figure out reasons why it's not a good one.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the way that you're talking, it's almost like the constraints in those particular areas lead to your creativity. You go, hey, here's the box that you have to play in. Here's the story. Here's the property. Here's what we're kind of thinking we'll do. Okay, I've got to fit that in there. Whereas it's interesting, you talking about ideas being like butterflies, don't pin them to the wall. It's that first thing you go, I have this inspiration for an idea. And for a while, it could be anything as long as it fits into that framework, which I think can be quite nerve-wracking as well. Because when it can be anything, it can be anything,
Right.
When you're stuck, there was a book that I read years ago by Robert Pirsig called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
Big book when I was a kid. And something that I've always carried with me as a lesson from that book was when he was an English teacher, kids would tell him, I'm stuck. I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. He said, likelier than not, you are not stuck because you have no ideas. You are stuck because you have too many ideas. So when I say, look out the window and write about the thing you see, I don't mean write about the city. I don't even mean write about that building you're looking at. I mean, pick a fucking brick. Write about that brick.
Right.
Make the constraints, because it's not about having no ideas. It's because you have 10,000 ideas, and because you've been doing this for a minute. Most of them are crappy. Most of them aren't movies. Most of them aren't commercial and viable. So choose one and then start digging in on that one. So how do I break an idea for myself? I tend to start with a character in a moment. I tend to find a moment where I'm like, okay, that's the guy. Deepwater Horizon, a movie I wrote, almost 10 years ago now. My agent called me up and said, hey, this is a movie, the Deepwater Horizon blew up off the coast of New Orleans. I knew all about the rig and the disaster. I grew up with a father who worked in the chemical business. I knew about large industrial catastrophes. And I was like, no, this is not. This is a story with no good guys, only bad guys and victims. It sucks. It's just not a commercial film. And he sent me an article written in the New York Times. And about halfway in, there was a description of a guy named Mike Williams. And Mike got off the rig, walked through fire and collapsing I-beams, and got onto one of the rescue boats. And he got into the boat. And it was a tiny little portal. And he crawled inside. And there were 40 seats in there. And of those 40 seats, only 5 were occupied. And he knew there are 200 people on this fucking rig. And they're all my friends. This boat should be packed. And there should be 2 more boats, all of which were also packed. Something's wrong. My friends are trapped in there. He got back out of the boat, crawled back through fire, and went back into that burning rig. I was all right, done. That is a movie. That is Matt Damon. That is Mark Wahlberg. That is a hero being born.
Right.
So around that axis, that one pin in the butterfly, the rest of the movie came doubling out, and it was a stupendously difficult process. I mean, I don't want to tell you how many drafts of the first act I did. Probably, because everything about that script prior to the rig blowing up is laying groundwork. It's those movies are always hard. The bomb going off always sucks, because everything you're doing prior to that, you just know the audience is like, what's gonna blow? Get me through there. And that's hard. It's just difficult. But that said, when you do it properly, it turns into a heist movie where all those little things you strung together, all those character beats, all those hanging chads, they pay off and make the second act and third act much more satisfying and powerful. So how do I find my way in? One character, one moment. I will say also, frequently when I've written the draft that goes into the studio, that one moment won't be in the script anymore. It's gotten me into writing the story, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? We don't need that scene anymore. It's no longer necessary.
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
That was really interesting. Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah. I can't even imagine. I mean, I feel like with ours, it's like that moment tends to be almost like the foundation or bedrock that
Yeah,
we,
but sometimes you build such a beautiful building that the foundation becomes
yeah,
Sure.
like, that's redundant. Like
And
I've done,
ultimately, yeah. It's what was the thing that made you go, oh, I have to write this? Because this is a story about a hero being born.
Yep.
yeah,
And there are many scenes that can contribute
of
into
course.
the creation of that.
Yeah.
Advice I would give. It is a very, I find it very emotionally taxing. I am, like most of us here in this town, a workaholic. I don't want to tell you how many hours a week I work. I couldn't venture a guess, but it's a lot, and I'm sure you guys are the same. I always say my boss sucks. Like, he's a martinet asshole who knows exactly how hard I'm not working. Me.
Yeah.
But I find I spend all day working. I mean, all day, bang my head against the wall. At the end of the day, I have maybe his mom is the alien. And then Tuesday morning, I look at that and I'm like, you know what? That's dumb. So that whole day of work, it was wasted. But that is the process. That's it. That back and forth. The idea, my brothers, my boys and girls, the idea is half as important as anything else involved in the process. It is 50% of the battle.
Yeah.
Do it. Do not rush into. I've gotten so good at writing these things. I've gotten so good at the craft of writing a script, the craft of making a movie, that the idea is important, but don't think too much about that because I'm such a good writer. No, it's not. That's not it. The idea is half of it. So spend as much time on the idea as you would on the second, third, and fourth drafts. At this stage,
you outline?
Not only do I outline, I can tell when writers do not, and it means they're not professionals.
Yeah.
I know within 2 pages, did you write a fucking outline? And I can tell you didn't, and I'm out. Like, I'm already like, you know what? Come back when you've learned to write an outline.
Wow.
So, that's really interesting.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We obviously we're in the middle of our outlining right now. We tend to write long and very detailed outlines, but it took us a while to find our way to that. We definitely had the moments early on where we're like, we have an idea. We know what Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 are. Let's just start writing. And then, like, kind of what you're saying about the idea being 50%. It's almost, and maybe this is for you too, but the outlining process helps you solidify the idea as well.
Yeah, I absolutely does. Particularly if you're working with anybody else. And quite often nowadays I'm working with directors, and I do want them involved in the process, whether it's Chris Columbus or Shinsuke Sato or almost always Sam Hargrave. I want to make sure they're on board with the idea rather than giving them 110 pages and having them say, I'm not sure about the idea for Act 2 and 3.
It's very true, isn't it? I think that's.
So the outline, and I actually like doing an iterative process of outlining, so that I will do a 1-page outline that becomes a 4-page outline that becomes a 9-page outline that becomes a 12-page outline. Here's why, for me, and again, this is for me. With a 1-page outline, you can see right away what's not working structurally. Like, my lead character isn't in 3 of these bullet points. That's a problem. That means he's dropping out or she's dropping out for 10 pages. Not okay. Brad Pitt's going to be pissed.
Right.
So those bullet points, that short form outline, really helps me see the structure. Am I leaving Act 1 propulsively with a clear sense of what my lead character wants and why she wants it? That has to be in the outline at 1-page stage.
Right.
But then the longer outline, you start digging into, okay, how does this set piece run? Where is this scene working thematically? Can I reverse engineer this section here? Okay, is this section necessary? Is this going to be running short over here? My Act 2 feels like it's maybe coming out to 45 pages. Not good enough. It needs to be longer. All my first drafts are short, always.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that outline becomes something that I'm going back and forth. I have found, however, that when outlines get to be 10, 15 pages-ish, they start becoming a document people judge you on by themselves, not as the beginning of a script, not as the blueprint for a house.
Yeah.
Line notes back from studio executives. I don't know about this line of dialogue. You're like, well, neither do I, for fuck's sake. It's in the outline. The only thing I can actually rock solid 100% guarantee you about that line of dialogue is we're never shooting it. Like that, I guarantee you. So please, let's not go 9 rounds on that thing that I put in at 3 a.m. to hold that scene together in the outline.
Right.
Not 9 rounds on that. I really have. Guys, the people listening, learn to write outlines. Not just because I'm telling you, not just because Ben and Jake are telling you, but because when you start working this professionally, you will likely be required to write one as part of the job process. In TV,
TV, I was going to say.
Always in TV. Always.
In TV.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we have found that our outline for us is very different than our outline for our employer.
Oh, fuck you.
For exactly the reason that you're talking about. Like, we might write 40 pages for us, but we would never hand that in to
right.
Right.
Different purposes.
Delivered and gotten signed off on. I will then take another week to write things all over it in different colored pen. Like, I know you guys signed off this. I know you like that scene. I like that scene also when I wrote the outline. But looking at it now, I can do a little better. And I'm not going to go back and fix the outline again. I'm going to write it in income there. And outlining is such a fascinating process. The longest outline I ever did for a feature was for a Denzel Washington movie. He was in a direct and star in it. And I was so unbelievably nervous about giving Denzel fucking Washington pages that my outline was 36 pages long. And it was a gorgeous outline. It was nuanced. The characters had depth and
poetic.
Yeah.
He signed off on it, said, great job. I started writing it and realized, like, 10 pages into the script, I'm like, this outline's not working. Like, it's not.
The worst. That's the worst.
Script. It wasn't. I had to re-break the entire thing and go back to 10 pages.
Yeah.
For television, because of how TV works, and you guys know this well also, you've got to write a 25-page outline. And that outline, I'm working with Brad Falchuk right now, who's given me just a wonderful course on how to write TV. Brad's been doing it since he was 20 years old. He's got, I don't know, I can't even keep track of the number of successful TV series that motherfucker's had.
Sure.
Is my own. But Brad's outlines are 34, 35 pages long.
Wow.
To convert that to a script, we changed the formatting.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
That was it. The dialogue was there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then we went back and took some notes internally, and it's done, and it's great. But he does that for a specific reason. He's like, once the outline has been signed off on by the studio, they're going to get a script where there are no surprises. They've already had all their notes. They know what it is. They're going to have a whole bunch of notes because of their studio, but they're not going to have big notes because they've done them.
Right.
Yeah. I hear that. Yeah.
It was smart. Yeah. We'll see if it works.
I mean, I think it's the same as well. I think it's, what we're talking about as we're outlining our spec. We are the studio. We don't want to come back to it and go, oh, hang on a minute, Act 2's not working. You've got to completely restructure Act 2, having written it. It's just, when you get all those ideas. I mean, even yesterday, we suddenly paused and we were like, what's the character development of our lead? Are we spending enough time on that? Is that established early on in Act 1? What is that going to be? What's that going to be moving forward? How does that play through at the end? Rather than just writing something and going, oh shit, we haven't done that work.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. All these subtle, the mushy things, the theme. I try to figure that out. But I'm also entirely open to the fact that I'll likely change my mind about that theme.
Yeah.
I write it. I'm like, what?
Then it'll become something else without you even knowing.
There's characters. I despite, and I'll deny this to Fast later, I can't really hear characters' dialogue until the second draft. I can't. I can't. If it's the polish, if I'm like production stuff, the voices are there. I'm just parroting at that point. That's easy. There's no ego attached. I'm writing stuff that sounds like that dude.
Sure.
But for my own stuff, for an original, I'm not really hearing them. I'm like, they're sock puppets in the first draft. Second draft, they start talking back, and it's the most wonderful thing. When I love so much when a character won't get out of the scene. Yes. I happened in this thing for Legendary that I was like, you're not supposed to be in the scene anymore. Like, you did your thing, go back in your little hole until I need you again. And she wouldn't leave. She wouldn't leave. She had more things to say, more things to do. And it's I'm grinning from ear to ear as I'm typing her dialogue because she's come alive on the page. She's a person. I'm saying, come on, let's go, come on, like walking my dog. And she's like, no, fuck you. Like, you know who I am. I'm not going to get off that. I have things to do here. Deal.
Yeah. One of those things I say in my opening, in our little opening, is that the screenplay will write itself. At a certain point, it needs to be what it needs to be, right?
I think
and then you have to rein it in.
Yeah.
You have to go, no.
And we've experienced sometimes as well, thinking that a screenplay was one thing, even tonally, and then in the writing of it going, it's just not that at all. It is something else. And like, I think that it kind of like, in that sense, almost feels like we become almost like channels for it. You know,
when it really works, when there's a moment where you feel like, or I feel like a prophet, like Moses on the mount, and it just gets flowing through me, and I'm just typing as fast as I can. I don't know where it's going. I don't know why they're saying what they're saying. I'm just transcribing it. It just happened on this TV pilot. It generally happens about once in every blue moon. So I'll work on a script, and normally 1 hour of one day of writing that script, I'll have that feeling. I'll write 4 pages and go, holy shit, that's gorgeous. And it's always the best. It's sex, it's drugs, it's fucking heroin mainlining. It's amazing. And hardly the rest of the time writing is just miserable slog. That's just how it is.
Just shoving
so you have your outline, you love your idea, and it's time to start writing. Do you give yourself a goal per day, per week? Do you just kind of go and just see how much you can get out? Do you purposefully take breaks? What is your...
I'm a neurotic Jew. A goal hourly, I have a goal daily, I have a goal weekly. Up the waz. I generally do 4 writing sessions per day. I will do less if I'm going to the gym or have a meeting or whatever it is. In each of those writing sessions, I have to complete 2 pages. Thus, by the end of a full day of writing, I'll have 8 pages. Thus, by the end of a full day of writing, a full week writing, I'll have 30 some odd pages. So that at the end of 4 weeks, I'll have a first draft. It never actually works that way. It's always
it's a goal.
It's a goal.
I've wasted longer. And there's no correlation between how fast the process is and how good it is. I've written some of my most brilliant stuff fast, some of my most brilliant stuff low. Some absolute garbage has taken me forever, or been just spewing forth, and it felt really good when I wrote it, and I came to the next day, I was like, yeah, deleting all of that.
Right.
Not up to snuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to then rewriting, do you put something aside? At what point do you start to want to get feedback on it? Are you your own feedback person? How do you then work on rewriting what you've written?
Well, before I show it to anyone, I will print it out, go take a walk, go to the gym, something that really lets me get out of my head for a minute. And then I'll sit someplace else with a pen and read the pages. Because I think there's something about sitting in front of the same computer in the same location where you start shifting back into writing mode rather than editing mode. So I'll go to a coffee shop or go to a bar and get a beer and just read it and scroll things in the margins. And then I'll make those changes, which normally takes only a couple of days. And I should say also, sometimes I'll finish a first draft and know there are things that need addressing. Momentum is important to me. I generally keep next to my computer when I'm working a list of things I know I have to go back and fix. Add this thing so that scene is set up. Character on that scene because he's got to pay that off on this beat.
That's interesting.
But the momentum matters. If I go back endlessly to fix the things that I know need fixing, I'll be stuck on page 34 for a month, and it's not helping anybody.
Right.
But so then I print it out, make those edits, and then it depends what kind of a project it is. If I'm writing it with, if Sam and I are taking it out, then Sam's going to have to read it. My manager is good at reads. There are writers I trust, Lita, Simon. Well, it's been a minute with Kimberg. People I trust. I have found, oddly, writers usually don't give the best notes. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they're really good at it, but writers tend to be very reticent with their notes.
Interesting.
In my experience, because they're like, look, if
we're blunt as fuck.
Differently, because I'm writing. But the notes that I've gotten that were the best usually are from producers. Because they do it. They know how to encourage things. They know when to insert, when to back off. But often when I'm working, I don't write specs very much. I haven't had a good time doing them in my career.
Sure.
For better or for worse, I'm good at selling things, and I tend to write things on assignment to one sort or another. And the problem is not is usually not getting it to be read. It's getting it to be read by so many fucking people.
Mm.
You know, this legendary project. I got one director, one producing partner, one other producer in Greece, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studio executives, and a branch of the armed forces.
Right.
Wow.
That's I don't need more cooks in that kitchen.
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
How do you know? Is it just instinctual, or do you like? How do you know when the draft is ready to send to that first person? Like we always talk about, like the moment you hit send on that first email, that script is no longer yours.
It's not yours. And also, when I hit send, there's a half-life of how happy I am.
Yeah.
And 1 hour being ecstatic and convinced that I'm a genius, then a half hour thinking that maybe I didn't do such a great job on some of those scenes.
Right.
Then minutes of just, it's okay. It's not my best work, but it's solid. And then 7 minutes of, it's probably not that good actually. And then 2 minutes of, I may be out of a career and I'm going to have to work in an antique store. And the last minute of just, I sucked. Like it wasn't right. I'm so sorry. Please.
And then you open up that script and you find that typo on page 1 and you're like, fuck!
Also, it's a truism that the instant you send something in, you thought of 4 things you could have done better. The instant.
Yeah.
So how do you decide?
I just when I can't face it anymore. When I can't fucking deal. That said, there are moments when you got to rush. I mean, it is. There are moments when you have to hurry. You never have to hurry when you're writing a spec. You never have to hurry, no matter what the studio says. You never have to hurry, unless you have a start date during the development process. But sometimes, you gotta hit a mark. You do.
Yeah.
Production work. I mean, you guys have done some of that. No bullshit. It's got to be in by 4 a.m. Like that's non-negotiable. You got till 4 a.m. to give it your best shot.
Right.
If you got a start date, that draft has to be to production in time to make the changes. If the studio is getting refinanced, say, for example, they might need to get that to their financing company by that date. No bullshit.
Sure.
That also. So sometimes, I don't think rushing ever benefits anybody, but sometimes it's not a rush. Sometimes it's being a professional.
Sure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And again, interesting what we were talking about earlier about constraints. It's like, how long does it take you to paint a room? If you've got a week, it'll take a week, but you'll get it done.
Sometimes my absolute best work has come under a horrendous deadline.
Sure.
It's on set with the actors melting at 110 degrees. And I came up with a line of dialogue, and the mom says to the son, I hate for your wife to be standing where I am one day. Listen to all that silence when there should be nothing. I was like, well, it's fucking great. Where'd that come from? And because I didn't have to worry about it. I just typed it good to good. Yes. Print it.
There you go. Yeah. Right.
Awful. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, that's what you get for writing at 4 a.m.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, I mean, I guess my only other question is like, if there's one thing that you would tell a newer writer about like how they can adjust their process to be either more efficient or more, increase their creativity levels, like what is it that you think you do that's specific that like really is like the Matthew Sand way?
Well, I wouldn't recommend that way. It involves checking basketball scores a lot, for one thing. I think that there's a Hemingway line that I write like a lot. Write drunk, edit sober. I quote that to myself a lot. That's helpful. I have written above my desk only one line, which is why do I care? That's my job, is to make the audience care. Make them laugh, cry, fucking get a hard on, whatever it is. My job is to emotionally engage. All the rest of it is modular and can be. I can work that with craft rather than art, but the art of it, I gotta make you give a shit. Like I have to.
Yeah.
Right. I also, that shitty first draft. Don't just understand your first draft will suck. It will. I don't care if you're Matthew Sand or Tony Gilroy or William fucking Shakespeare. Most of us write shitty first drafts. We just do.
Right.
And I will also say that while there are some people who are famous for writing amazing first drafts, the guy who wrote Twilight Zone, whose name I'm blanking on suddenly, Rod Serling. Serling was famous for, he would lie back on his couch and close his eyes and speak, and his secretary would just transcribe, and she would be in awe because it would come out beautiful. It would come out gorgeous. But you know what? His brain broke when he was in his 40s, and he descended into alcoholism. Hemingway was the same way. The pros that hang around in this game for a while, they tend to write pretty good first drafts and then get better and better and better. It's your first draft. Like, it's not going to be, certainly won't be my best work. My first draft will be, there's some good stuff there. There's a lot of like, I know what I'm trying for with that scene. I'll make it better and then better and then better. I mean, advanced class is, Tony Gilroy just had a comment about Andor, about how he said that I always try to turn a scene upside down. How can I do this in a way that I haven't done before, that I haven't seen before? He said, more often than not, I can't, but I always ask that question.
That's interesting. It might lead to a discovery, mightn't it?
Yeah, and sometimes you can't. Yeah.
That's being a pro, is can I get it a little bit better by starting over again? Because getting it to 90% of my capacity, 90% of my talent takes X amount of effort. 90%. Getting me to my A- B+ work.
Right.
Get it to my very best work is literally twice as hard. Twice. That last 10% is another 100% of the effort.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's everybody out there.
Cool.
That's great.
I love it.
Cool. Well, I think we should probably wrap this part up.
We promised you only to keep you for half an hour, and we will keep our promise.
We want to stick to that.
It's a pleasure. You're doing God's work out there. Keep at it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We'll have to get a drink sometime.
Indeed, we will.
Yes.
Take care,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew.
Bye.
Bye. I love him so much. He's so great.
And
you can just tell he's just been doing it for so long and just has this, like, it's in his blood. It's just in his blood and his DNA, and it's just who he is.
Yeah.
You know? And again, while he outlines, I can't imagine coming to a document and going, yeah, none of that works. Completely get rid of that. You know, it just feels just like even when it's on, there's still a fluidity to it in the way that he's just making his discoveries. And I just, you know, it's so interesting. But,
yeah, I think I love that he has above his desk, why do I care?
Sure.
That's, I think, like, for me, I mean, and it's so true. We all write in different ways, but like that's universal.
It is, though, isn't it? Absolutely
like,
right.
No writer should not be thinking of that question when writing anything. Because, I mean, honestly, we talk about this all the time when we watch things, right? And I go, and I'll say it all the time. I'll be like, yeah, I stopped watching that show because I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have to, like, not only you as the writer have to care, but like the viewer needs to care, the reader needs to care, the characters need to care.
Right.
Like, why do we care?
Yeah.
Because he's so right. It's like so much can be fixed, right? So much dialogue can be rewritten, scenes can be restructured, action can be done by fight choreographers. But why we care is that can't be
paramount.
It's paramount.
Yeah.
Right? It's
paramount. You don't, and again, it plays macro over the course of a movie, and it just plays micro. It's in individual moments in scenes.
Yeah.
You know, why do I care that the person in this scene succeeds? Why will I care if they fail? You know,
right.
In what way am I emotionally engaged in this story in a way that isn't, I fucking hate this?
Yeah, we ask all the time, it's like, why do we want them to win?
Yes, sure.
You know, or why do we want the villain to lose? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and it all different wordings, but it all basically boils down to that, right?
Sure.
It's like, why do we care? Why are we invested in this movie?
Yeah.
What is it emotionally that it's done to us? And it could be as simple as just, I'm rooting for the good guy because
totally.
To win.
Yes.
Or it could be that it's cathartic and it's making me think about life in a new way. Or it could be, I mean, it's like there's such a those are like two like extremes, and there's like everything in the middle.
Yeah,
you know?
of course. Yeah.
And I think that you can care about movies in totally different ways, in popcorn commercial ways and in artistic and deep ways, but you still have to care, otherwise you're looking at your phone.
It's exactly right. That's exactly, particularly in the country we live in today, it's just so easy.
Oh my gosh. The number of times if I find myself checking email, the first thought I have is like, well, I obviously don't give a shit about what's going on in this scene.
Or when you fall asleep in front of a movie.
Right. Well, that happens to me all the time, and that's not necessarily reminiscent of it. Although I will say, and I've said this to you, if a movie or TV show, if I can make it all the way through without falling asleep,
yes,
that means
that's the thing.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean you're bad if I do fall asleep, but if I don't fall asleep,
that means you're pretty special.
That means you've passed the Ben
Lustig sleep test.
And that could be in the theater. That could be on my couch. That
could be while driving your car. Whatever.
All right.
All right. Let's jump into. Let's do some work on our what's that you've got?
It is a mocha. Well, it was a smoothie. Now it's like mainly melted slush.
Nice.
It's kind of sweet coffee.
Sweet coffee. So we had a good, interesting conversation yesterday, just regarding our main protagonist, our Charlize Theron character.
Yeah.
Who I swear to God, we've got to come up with some names.
I know it's getting ridiculous
now, isn't it?
It's getting ridiculous. I mean, usually here's the thing: we've like been avoiding it because we don't want people to like be watching us come up with names. But here's the truth, everybody. We might sit in complete silence for 10, 20, 30 minutes going, what about this name?
Yeah.
And the other guy would go, nah. Okay. And then
the amount of times as well on to
nah.
demonnamegenerator.com.
Right?
Let's go. What about this? What about this?
Oh, that sounds right. Oh, and then we'll make a list of like our top, and then we'll go, no, that's every once in a while you go, that's it.
Totally. I mean, like, it's interesting. I kind of feel like Hank's name is Hank.
I like Hank.
I just think it's Hank. I just go, cool. I get actually character through that name.
And I like Sam, actually.
And I like Sam as well. I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like Sam.
And I like Zod as well. Zod's got
Zod and the demons. The demons need names. But we also need a title to this movie, even if it's untitled Lustig and Thornton Demon Project for right now. But these are things that I think we could probably do offline. I think everyone will forgive us if we don't share with you the incredibly boring of us going, what about this name?
Yeah, I know. Of course, names are.
We will do that, and I think let's make that a priority in one of our offline sessions to just go, hey, let's dedicate an hour to coming up with.
Okay, great, we'll do it.
All right, we're gonna do that for y'all.
So yes, we talked yesterday about Charlize's motivation, her weakness, her flaws. I just want to touch really quickly. What are her strengths?
Well,
other than physically.
I mean,
good at. I think she's intelligent. I think she's sympathetic / empathetic. As we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that perceived weakness is also her strength. Sure. Yeah. Although I don't know how that. I mean, other than the fact that it's what ultimately allows her to save Sam's life, so that it does come into play.
It does. She makes the morally correct choice in that moment.
At a certain point, that's not going to necessarily be a strength that perhaps allows her to be victorious.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is willing to take risks.
Yeah.
He literally went against demon
Sure.
kind to
Yeah.
get what she wants.
Yeah.
And I think a strength of a lot of heroes is willing to go further than the average person.
Right.
Willing to go all the way, willing to put it all on the line.
Totally. Yeah.
For what you believe in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously she has physical strength
Of course.
and those types of kind of supernatural qualities.
Yeah.
But I also, I do think that her will, her internal, it's hard to not use the word strength, but her grit is ultimately what got her to this point and what will get her to the next point.
And it's almost
she has not been willing to give up, even with the weakness of not being authentic to herself, has been an attempt to get the thing that she wants. She has never stopped trying. She's never given up.
Right.
On anything.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess she kind of gave up on being an evil demon, but we'll forgive her for that.
We'll forgive her for that one. Yeah. Great. Okay. Let's just things through just briefly.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I realized that yesterday we talked through a lot of that really, really deep hero stuff. We didn't write it down.
We did not. Yeah, we kind of ran out of time.
We ran out of time and we didn't make notes. And so I do want to pull our document up and at least put down the things that we talked about yesterday while it's relatively fresh in our minds.
Yeah. Per what we were talking about with Matthew just moments ago is that when you put those things in the outline, you remember they're there. These are building blocks. We need, even if it's just adding a line into a scene that already exists there. It is, she's there. She's Susie fucking Homemaker in this scene. And yet in the next scene, we see it all drop. I liked what you pitched yesterday. She's in the bookstore. We would think she'd never be, someone who would curse. And then when she opens her mouth, she's got the mouth of a sailor when she thinks she's alone.
Right.
Little moments like that, you go, oh, okay, this is someone who is putting on a front, who is not being true to themselves, who is not being an authentic version of themselves. And it's actually making them unhappy in a weird way. Yeah,
I think that's why at the end, they're able to go their separate ways.
Yes.
I genuinely care about you, and you genuinely care about me, but we're not really in love.
Right.
We can't be in love because we're not authentic.
Yes, indeed.
You can't be in love with something that's not real.
Yeah.
In that sense. It's almost like thematically relevant in that way.
Yes.
So this is getting a little messy, but I still just want to put it down in this document.
That's
for right
fine.
now. There are things that we want to add into this outline. So, for example, we want to have a beat in the prologue where we fully understand what Charlize is and her relationship is odd.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's important. Then, 100 years later, I do not know why these things go bold and unbold. It must have something to do, I must be writing in scene heading or something.
Maybe, yeah.
100 years later, we need to feel that she is putting on airs. She's it's not really that, but it almost is, right?
Yeah, she's putting on a front. She's pretending to be something she's not. And while she's good at pretending to other people, she's not good at pretending to herself.
But it's a front. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Scene in bookshop.
Yep.
There could be a moment, for example, where does she get upset with the kid or something like that? But ultimately, I'm almost more interested. I want to see her putting on the show, but we know that's not her. We get that that's not really who she was because we saw her in the prologue.
Yeah.
And so the contrast of who she was then and who she is now, you're going to go, what's she doing?
Yeah, what's she
and
doing?
then when she goes in the bathroom and gets in the bathtub and lets it all down, we go, oh, she's trying to have a normal life.
Yeah.
You know, at home, she feels like, Susie Homemaker. But it's, it's not real.
It's a front.
She goes into the bathroom and lets down her hair, literally, and literally and metaphorically.
Yes, exactly. Her letting her hair down is a metaphor for her letting her hair down in life.
Right.
Great. Okay.
Then we were saying that basically, and these are kind of bigger ideas, that Hank and Sam are the first people ever.
Well, since Zod.
She wasn't able to be authentic with Zod because she couldn't tell him about the things going on inside of her. The reason she had to run.
Yeah, sure. Yes,
right?
sure. Yes.
She can be her true, authentic self. That is demon.
Yeah.
And empathetic, good person.
Sure. At the same time.
She's, gruff and has feelings. She's complicated.
Yeah.
And she's never felt comfortable with those complications.
Right.
And I think that that's her journey, right? Like her arc is to get the family that and the ultimately and the people in her life that she can be herself around.
Yes.
But also feeling confident in who that is.
Yeah. Great.
She's not broken. And there's something about like a person who thinks that they should be something else.
Yes.
Where they feel broken. Like as a demon, it's like I shouldn't be having empathy. I'm broken. We're dealing with this a little bit in one of our other projects right now, our TV pilot, where the character is supposed to be a certain way for society and feels like, what's wrong with me, And
I think that can parallel with something inside Sam.
Right.
And in fact, what's interesting as we talk this through is when Charlize goes to see Sam's NA meeting, Sam can express that sentiment. And that hits at something inside of Charlize.
Right.
I feel like I'm broken.
NA meeting. And like she has like she doesn't belong anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
Elise hears Sam express the same thing she's felt much of her life.
Right.
And we also talked about at the end, she doesn't get back with boyfriends.
Yeah.
But she is authentic.
Yeah.
Authentic and does care about him and his kid. And that also means leaving them.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. There was this is all really good, deeper things. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that we talked about yesterday in terms of specific plot moments. We talked about her maybe in the biker bar letting her temper out.
Yes,
perhaps.
Absolutely. Yes, and is that
part of her of the demon side? Like, does she let the demon out? Have we seen her let that demon out?
Right in a long time? Yeah, I think that's really great. I think that's really great. And it will cause problems for them potentially. And I'm just liking that too. It's like,
it's probably going to alert the FBI or someone,
yeah,
something like that,
Yeah.
or whomever it is. Biker,
Yes.
is there a does a fight break out and it's Charlize letting out her demonic anger fully.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
And then, so that's kind of what we were saying about, that's the way one of her issues perhaps makes her lose.
Yeah.
Is it's interesting. She doesn't believe, but it's not even that she doesn't believe that she can be both. It's like she doesn't know how to be both.
Right.
It's like when she lets the demon out, she forgets about her empathy.
Yes.
And then she's trying to be a human.
Yeah.
She's so about trying to be a human that she loses the authenticity of who she is as a demon.
Yeah, I hear it.
That in a way that flaw of not really being comfortable in your own skin is what gets her into trouble here.
Yes.
And that's that calling your mom or talking to your mom on the phone moment, I think.
Absolutely right. Completely.
Yes. This is her flaw causes.
Great. It just makes her in many ways just more human.
And that's going back to our wonderful interview today.
Yeah.
Why do we care about Charlize? Let's ask that. Well, we care because we've seen an evil being try to be good.
Yes.
And we want her to succeed.
Yes.
We want good to triumph over evil. And in this case, it's playing out inside of her.
Yes.
And so we care. Of course, we care that we don't want the world to end and the Antichrist and all that. But what we really want is for Charlize to be good.
Yes. Yes.
And then as we learn more through these scenes, we will want her to not just be good, but to be able to be herself.
Yes. Totally.
And we are going to care about that because, how many people haven't been in a situation in their lives where they felt like they couldn't be themselves because they thought they would be judged or made fun of or ostracized?
Absolutely.
Or, I know I have.
Yeah.
There are plenty of times. Heck, I was an actor. All actors pretty much are trying to not be themselves.
At all times.
At all times. So I think it's a very human dilemma.
Indeed.
And I think that's the kind of thing that we do care about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's good to ask about all of our characters.
Why and that was one of the things we do today, but we don't quite have enough time to say. But again, I think we should be asking these things of Sam and I think also of Hank as well. And not that they need to be, like Hank, we can make a really, again, like I said, we can make him a morally ambiguous character, even though he's doing quote unquote good things too.
As much as he's morally ambiguous, Charlize ends up with him, and we're happy about that. In terms of as a partnership, not as a romantic relationship.
For sure. Yeah.
I think he can be a little bit off his fucking rocker.
Completely. But
I think a peacemaker.
Or for example, he's a demon hunter, but he fucking abandoned his wife and kids 20 years ago. That, and why? Well, it's difficult. I've seen some things. I've got a drinking problem, and that can be, you're the kind of person who did that kind of thing. And
we'll have to go into the backstory to see if that specific example would work based on what we've come up with. But you're right. It's those kinds of things to go, has he hurt innocent people in order to do what he thinks was right?
I shot a kid.
He was about to kill Sam.
With no
and that's morally ambiguous.
It is.
But I think also, one of the reasons I feel like we'll like Hank and why we're going to care about Hank is because Hank is, I don't know, in my mind, he's like a teddy bear with a really rough surface. Like I keep seeing David Harbour in this sense.
I do too.
And like I feel like what he really wants underneath it all are friends.
Yeah, sure.
And he doesn't have any.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the life he's chosen.
Yeah.
Which causes him to be morally ambiguous, which causes him for the safety of the human race, I have chosen to be alone.
Yes.
But really, what do I want? Connection.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
You know,
as rough as he is and as harsh as he is, what does he really want? He wants what we all want.
And I think we'll want that for him because I think he's not only going to be funny and charming in a fucked up way.
Yeah, David Harbour is just the perfect comp. You know, even his character on Stranger Things, it's just like you go, yeah, you're kind of it's his relationship with Eleven in Stranger Things.
Right. Yes.
You know, he's this guy to the world, he gets home and he's trying to be a dad, you know.
Right.
We should wrap up. This was great. Good interview. Yeah. Just to remind our viewers, we're not around for the next kind of week and a bit.
Right.
Back on that first Monday after American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Which we worked out was the 28th. Was it the 28th? Yes, the 28th. The 28th.
Something like that. But we will be back to continue this. I wrote down what we're going to do in our next session, talk about why we care. We also hope to have at least 2 more interviews before the year is out.
So we can arrange those.
We'll figure out who those are going to be. That's going to be fun and exciting. And then, I think we will see you all in a couple of weeks. Don't forget to subscribe, please. Yeah. Subscribe here on YouTube or follow us on Facebook. And then the last announcement as well, we are on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. If you'd rather listen to the episodes, those episodes are a little behind the live episodes. And they'll probably continue to be behind the live episodes, but they will slowly be published as we move forward. So you can always catch up if you missed us talking about Hank back in the day. Talk about Hank. All right, everyone. Thanks you very much for joining us.
Good, Ben.